Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conscious Conversations. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So, I am a spiritual energy healer, I'm a shamanic practitioner, I'm a transformation coach, and I'm the founder of the Transformation Center, which is located in Westport, Connecticut. Yeah, so at the center, we do a variety of workshops, we have classes, we have sound baths in the backyard, and we do things online and in person. In addition to the individual healing and coaching sessions that I do. So you can check out everything. We have a calendar of events on our website, which is transformationcenterct.com. And so we're going to show our contact information there. And you're welcome to just call me, text me, email, whatever. With any questions, I'm happy to talk. Yeah, so I'm really excited about the Conscious Conversation show because, each week we have a new guest. And it's part of my mission is to introduce you to people who can help you on your journey. Because everything that we do at the center is really focused on that, to help you discover who you truly are. And then you can create the life that you love from there. Yeah. So I'm excited tonight. My guest is Kat Malkin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a lovely opportunity to share what I do with you.
Yes, exactly. And share it with all of our audience.
All
I'm
of you
so
out
excited.
there.
Yeah, so I recently met Cathy, also known as Kat, not too long ago. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her before we get started, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. So Kat is the Animal Muse, which you will see on her t-shirt, which I love that. It's perfect. So for over 30 years, Kat has empowered pets by giving them a voice as an animal communicator. This is awesome. I can't wait for you to do that with my pet. Yeah. So she helps animals feel their best as an animal Reiki master teacher and practitioner, along with being a pet meditation teacher. I want to hear about that. How does that work? Okay. So in addition, she communicates with animals who have passed on, and she offers pet loss grief counseling. That's really important.
Very important.
That's really great. And she also co-wrote the book, Overcoming Your Child's Fear of Dogs. And I really wish I'd had that about 25 years ago, maybe. That would have been really
It's
helpful.
when the seed was planted for the book. So
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. So we can talk about that too. Okay. And I love this. She also hosts and produces her own podcast, which is called Animal Talk. Wait for it, where pets drop the mic. Okay. So do you actually have pets on the show?
yes, they may not be physically present, but I translate for them, so they're very much a part of the discussion.
I gotcha. Okay, cool. And also, when I asked Cathy if she would come on the show and told her the name was Conscious Conversations, she said, that's perfect, because she has a master's degree in interdisciplinary consciousness studies. How cool is that?
Say that 5 times fast, right?
I couldn't even say it once.
I don't even know what it is, so it's all good. No, I know what it is.
That's perfect. Well, thanks again for being here. I mean, this is just awesome for all the animal lovers out there today, right? So, I really always like to start with tell us a little bit about how you got started in this.
Well, it's something that I've been doing all my life. I was blessed with a mother who believed that animals communicated. They were our teachers and our healers and guides. And I was blessed, I had horses and dogs and guinea pigs and cats growing up.
Where did you grow up?
I'm a native Westporter.
Oh, that's right. You did. Okay.
I
Okay.
grew up here in Westport.
Okay.
And then about 35 years ago, I decided I was done with Westport and I moved to California to the San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I endured 3 failed back surgeries and had to reinvent myself, if you will, because I had a lot of physical challenges I was all of a sudden dealing with. And I one day was at the Berkeley Marina in Berkeley, and in the wind, I just heard I was going to get a dog. And I've always been intuitive and all of that, but I didn't really know there was something called animal communication.
Yeah.
So I remember my husband, he's now in spirit. I went over to him and said, "Guess what? We're gonna get a dog." And he said, he's a New Yorker. "What are you, crazy?" I said, "No, let's get a dog." So the universe aligned, and about 3 weeks later, I found my dog Casey, who was at a Quezon rescue organization up in the foothills of the Sierra. And that dog literally changed everything about me.
Oh, wow.
Not only did he show up the day I started my master's degree, but he also participated and accompanied me to all my classes. So not only did I get a master's in consciousness studies, but my dog Casey, short for Kite Chaser, was given an honorary master's degree in conscious canine. Was the degree he earned for his compassionate interaction. But it was a few weeks after I had adopted Casey that I brought him to a holistic vet. And while we were waiting for the vet, there was a huge pile of books and things. I should have brought the book. And in that book was Animals Are Returned to Consciousness by Penelope Smith, who I took one look at the back of the cover and I went, "Oh, that's what I want to do when I grow up." Granted, I was in my late 20s, early 30s, but when I grew up, and it gave me something to focus on. So I worked on my master's degree, and another synchronistic thing happened. I was getting ready to do my thesis, and I really wanted to do it on animal communication and work with Penelope Smith, who was in the area. And I remember going to my advisor with my book back. I sheepishly brought out that book, Animals in Consciousness. I slid it across the table and said, "You're going to think I'm crazy, but I really want to talk to animals." She stopped for a moment, big smile on her face, and she says, "I know Penelope Smith. She's my neighbor.
Oh, no. That's great.
I go to her house all the time. Let me see what I can do."
Wow.
Well, I was over the moon. I mean, like, this was a dream for years while I was getting my master's degree. Unfortunately, a few weeks after that, there was a huge fire at the Inverness Point Reyes seashore. And sadly, Penelope not only lost her home, but many of her animals. She got out.
Sorry.
So there went my apprenticeship, but that's okay. I graduated, and Penelope came out and did a talk near my home, puffed up my dog because he's a puffy dog, and we went and met her. And after that, I studied with her. I apprenticed with her, and she essentially grandmothered me into the profession. So that's how I came to do the communication work. And it's so healing when you're in that energy of communicating. And how I communicate with animals is through telepathy. Telepathy just means feeling another soul or spirit over a distance. And the distance can be as close as this, or it can be around the world.
Sure. Yes, because it's all energy based.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so I started my practice, and then a few years later, I discovered Reiki, which for me and how we practice Reiki for animals, the animals recognize it. I've been studying holistic health since I was a teenager, sadly, when my dad ended up with stomach cancer. And his illness and dying when I was in high school put me on the holistic health track. And I've been studying it 40, 50 years now. So when I came across Reiki and realized how the energy was recognized by the animals, I was all in because the healing is just amazing.
Yeah. So did you start your training with Reiki for humans, and then?
I had one experience with humans while I was getting my master's degree, and it was a horrendous experience for
Okay.
me.
Okay.
It wasn't the right fit with the teacher, her method, all of that. In fact, after that first class, I felt like Swiss cheese. She like blew holes in me. So when it came time to learning with the animals, that
Just
shifted
felt
everything.
right.
Everything shifted because they're already there. They're our teachers and our guides to help us go to a more quiet, compassionate place.
Yeah, isn't that interesting how that works? So, I mean, none of this had happened in your life sounds like an accident. I mean, it's very synchronistic, yes, but you know, it really was your path.
Yes.
Feels like to me.
Well, in getting my master's degree and healing from my failed back surgeries, and yes, there is something called failed back surgery syndrome, I had a near-death experience. And that was very powerful in a shamanic way and getting me initiated to the work that I'm doing now.
Oh, so that really just furthered you on the same path?
It furthered me and it gave me a deeper understanding of energy and who we are as spiritual beings. My grandmother sent me back from
Yes.
being out on a cloud. I had a infected disc that was given to me in the hospital. So clawed my way back, learned to walk again, and I've been when
Yeah.
I'm talking with the animals or sharing Reiki, I don't. It's healing for me.
Yeah, well, you know, that's interesting you say that because as an energy healer, you know, people ask me, do you feel drained? Do you feel tired after? I said, no, I feel like I also received a healing as I'm the conduit for healing.
Yes,
It's
and that's how I see
yeah.
myself. I facilitate healing, and with the communication with the animals, it's like talk therapy. So it's holding a compassionate space so that the animal and their person can share their hearts together in whatever way they need to share so that healing can happen or better understanding. But I started it doing this in part to keep animals from going back to the shelter because so much of our issues with our animals is miscommunication
Yeah.
and misunderstanding. So I like to say I live in an animal-centric world, but I like to help people see other perspectives and different ways of seeing things or how animals are incredibly conscious.
Yes. Yes. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, animals never forget who they are. They, like a dog knows they're a dog. We humans, we have a little bit of an issue with that, right?
Yeah.
So our animals, I feel, especially in this moment in time that we're in, where things are very volatile, the animals are saying, listen, open your heart and listen. Because we're not listening as in general, we're not listening at that deep level where we connect with the oneness and feel our interconnection.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you on that one because we are all one.
Well, the animals know that. We forget.
Yeah, we forget.
For example, separation anxiety.
Yeah.
A lot of animals, well, they say 71% of dogs have anxiety, but separation anxiety in part is created by us. Because when we walk out the door and shut it, we feel disconnected. And the animal's like, where did you go? Instead of walking out the door, feeling all the love you have for your animal
Okay.
and feeling your connection and knowing you're always connected.
Yeah. So closing the door doesn't mean anything.
Or driving away.
Right.
It's an illusion,
Right.
but
So,
it can upset the animal
so
though.
we're communicating our fear basically to the animal. They're picking up on that. So then they present as having anxiety.
Many times that's the case. So I recently was listening to seminar on noise phobias around 4th of July. Big day for animals. And the number one takeaway I took was it all starts with us and our energy and where we're at. So if we're constantly worried and anxious, that ripples out. And the animal goes, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be. So that leads me to the pet meditation. I actually have started a membership, a club called the Animal Muse Club, where I help people with their relationships, taking both human and animal from anxious and stressed and overwhelmed to a peaceful, stress-free, and more heart-connected place.
Oh, that's great. So the human and the animals meditate together?
Yes, and we do it on Zoom, so it's not just a small group. It's literally a worldwide circle
Great.
where we all connect on a bigger level as well. But it's so much fun to watch the animals who may not be able to settle just conk out and go to sleep.
So do you do a guided meditation?
I do guided visualizations and meditations for people
Okay.
as part of it to help them get to that space.
Well, I
But
had
it's
no
fun.
idea that would work with animals, but of course it would. Why not?
Well, of course,
as
why
long-
not?
why
I mean,
not?
it's
Yeah.
so, and for me, meditation didn't really, it's important and it's an important part of my work, but it wasn't, I couldn't do it in the same way without my animals. Having them just changes the whole dynamic. And seeing the results and seeing how the animal shifts and change, it's life altering.
Yeah. Is it something that they then get, like if they have a regular practice, do they, I mean, demand it or
No, we never demand. We always invite.
oh, no, I mean, do they demand, like, do they know they benefit from it? Do they,
Oh,
do they
yes.
ask for it? Do they request it
Well,
is a
they
better
do,
word?
but whether we hear them and are listening to that request is another story.
Good point. Good point.
Okay.
Unless
A
we're
lot of
not
people
trained.
say they talk to their animals, and I believe that to be true, but not everybody listens at a deep level because our animal families are so aware of everything that goes on in their household, in their environment. And I always find it a lot of, I don't want, maybe fun isn't the right word, but it feels really good when I can give them that voice. And all of a sudden the person's mouth sort of drops and like, how do you know that their nickname is Baby Girl? Or I was working with a Weimaraner that has sensory overload and helping him explain where that came from for his person so they have a deeper understanding on how to help him feel better in the world.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So, can you also train the humans to be able to listen and to understand what they're
I
saying?
do train, I offer classes. I'm not teaching you something you don't know. That's the really cool thing.
Okay.
I'm helping you
Remember, yeah.
that when we were before we were born, we communicated telepathically with our moms. When we didn't have verbal language, we communicated telepathically with our moms. That's how baby animals talk with their moms, right? But unfortunately, as we grow older, we're told to use our words. It's just our imagination. And unfortunately, we get socialized out of trusting our intuition or other ways of knowing. So the animals help us remember.
Yeah, yeah, that's really true because we forget all of that and much more.
Well, and we're not, part of their lesson is to be in the moment.
Yeah,
And this is all that matters is what's here in the moment. When you rescue a pet, for example, so many people are invested in their history. And while the history may be important, if you focus too much on it, you literally lock your pet into the past and don't hold that space for them to be able to move forward.
oh man.
So when people say, what is my rescue animal's history? One will say, I'm happy to share. And you'll share with whomever you need to share, and then you have to let it go.
Yeah.
Because once you rescue that animal, it's no longer a rescue animal. It's your animal.
Yeah.
And let's face it, we all come into relationships with baggage. We all have issues. So once you bring that pet into your home and your heart, then it's up to you to help them move through their issues as they help us.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautifully said. And it's so reminiscent of, humans as well, because I mean, my belief is that we hold people, I see the good in everybody, right? So hold them in that space, in that light, not what they did or didn't do when they were younger or even yesterday for that matter, but it's like allow them to be who they truly are.
I call it holding the picture of perfection.
Yes.
And when we can get out of our way
Yes.
and hold that picture, all is well, or see the animal in their perfection. It doesn't mean that the animal will become perfect, but energy follows intention.
Yeah.
And getting out of that way and holding that compassionate space, anything is possible. Back to that Weimaraner I was talking with, sensory overload. I did a Reiki. We spoke first so that the person could release their stuff. And then I did a Reiki session, and that dog slept for hours, which he's never done, and was actually calm,
Yeah.
which he rarely is. So it just shows you that when we can hold that space, anything is possible. Yes.
I know, I love that. Yeah, and it's so true. And it's like now I can really see, working with the humans and the pets together is so critical because they need to remember too. They need to remember how to do things, and if they can't get out of their head and into their heart, then it makes it much more difficult.
Yes, and that's what my first dog, Casey, taught me when I was apprenticing and first teaching animal communication. All he said is get them into their heart and let us take over. And sure enough, I do a lot of heartmath.org, heart coherence kind of exercises to open that heart. And then the animals do the rest. I just sit back and I watch, and it makes me very happy because the animal is heard and empowered, because nobody wants to not be heard. It's a horrible feeling to feel unheard.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's really what we all need and want, is to be seen, to be heard, to be understood.
Exactly. And the
Animals
animals
are no different.
and when they're in our household, sometimes we sort of forget. And it's not that we mean to, because there's no doubt that we love them. But like I said, they don't forget that they're a dog or a cat for the most part. But we as humans are very lost, I feel. And they're showing us the way home.
Showing us the way. Well, that's interesting because I was wondering. So we currently have a cat.
Yes,
You
Oliver.
met Oliver, yeah. And it's my first experience really with any type of pet. Well, virtually any type of pet, or especially a cat. And I didn't know that he knew he was a cat. I wasn't sure about that, but they do know.
Well, he does know. I mean, sometimes I believe in reincarnation. So sometimes a dog will come back as a cat, and it'll be really odd for them, or a cat will come home, become a dog or a horse. New body, new experiences. But for the most part, unless they're imprinted when they're babies, meaning they see something other than their mother,
Right.
they know. And they're waiting for us to figure it out, or they're offering to say, let us help you. And part of how they help us is they love us unconditionally. They are true examples of spiritual beings.
Yeah. No, I definitely can see that and sense it. And no, it's made a big difference for my husband to have Oliver.
Well,
in his life.
Oliver knows what you do. You know that, right?
Well, I hadn't thought about it actually.
Yeah, no, he was talking to me on the way over here.
Okay.
And he wanted me to bring up that he knows what you do at the Transformation Center.
Really?
And he is holding space for everybody.
Oh, that's great.
So he's helping you. You just have to acknowledge
Okay.
and become conscious
Yes. Well, I definitely
and
need
have a
some help with
conscious
that.
conversation with him.
Perfect. Well, as you know, I'm gonna have you come over and
Thank you.
help us with that, shall we say?
Yes.
I think my husband would love it.
Talking with animals is so it's a breath of fresh air. It's like manna. It's it and when everybody gets onto the same page and understands, there is a shift in energy.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
And I've had clients obviously for a long time. Sometimes I don't hear from them 10 years because a conversation can change everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they
Even if you don't know what to ask, the animal will tell
will
you.
tell you. Okay, well, that's great. Maybe you start with, what do you want me to know?
Well, that's my favorite question.
Oh, yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
because that's opening the door for them to share their feelings. Versus, you need to tell them, they need to know. No, we're working in partnership with
Right.
animals. That false hierarchy where somehow we humans are better than animals, not it's a false hierarchy. So not to say that if you have a dog you're going to let that puppy do whatever it wants.
No.
You have to set, as the parent or leader of the family, you have to set clear limits and boundaries.
Sure.
But sometimes we forget to do that, or we're afraid if we say no they're going to love us less.
Just like with children.
It's no different. My sister is a clinical social worker who works with children, and we wrote the book Overcoming Fear of Dogs together. And so we are constantly saying we do very similar things, we just work with different species.
There you go. So, whose idea was it to do the book?
It was, well, the idea first got planted back in mid 90s. My sister came out with my niece and nephew, and unbeknownst to me, she had developed a phobia of dogs and was very scared to meet Casey.
Your niece?
My niece was, she was 5 then.
Okay.
And I had been doing humane education, taking Casey into classrooms in elementary schools and high schools, public schools in California. And intuitively, I just gave her control and did some things. And by the time she left, a few days later, she wasn't afraid of dogs anymore. And it started percolating in my sister's head. We talked a lot about it, and finally she put a protocol together.
Okay.
And my part in the book is educating people to dogs and dog language and how to be around dogs.
Okay.
Because part of overcoming fear is knowledge and
Right.
education.
Right.
Besides feeling in control.
Right.
So our belief is not everybody should love dogs or live with dogs, but no one should live in fear of dogs.
Yeah. Oh,
It's a
that's so
very
helpful.
scary thing.
So that's
So that's how that started, was again Casey, who he got me into this. Now my sister's doing fear of dog counseling.
Okay. Therapy. Okay.
Yeah, she's in
That's
New
awesome.
Rochelle, and so yeah, it all comes
This
full
is
circle.
wonderful. We're going to have to wrap up now. I know
That's,
this
it
goes
goes
by
very
so
fast,
fast, but
but
thank you for being
thank
here.
you for having me.
And thank you to our audience for joining
Yes.
us today.
Thank you.
And thank you.
your animals for coming and listening as well.
Yes, bring them along for sure. And thank you to the Westport Library, Verso Studios for hosting us. Bye, everybody. Namaste.